Imagine you are driving down a dark highway and suddenly a small animal jumps in front of your car. Without thinking, you swerve. You spin across several lanes and find yourself facing the wrong way while traffic rushes toward you. You are paralyzed by fear and certain that the end is near. Then, out of nowhere, a complete stranger pulls over, runs across the busy road in the middle of the night, and saves you. This person doesn't even tell you his name. He just ensures you are safe and then vanishes back into the night. This is not a movie plot. It is a real experience that forces us to ask a difficult question. Why do some people risk everything for someone they have never met? We often look at the world and see two very different kinds of people. On one end, we see heroes who give their kidneys to strangers or run into burning buildings. On the other end, we see people who seem to have no heart at all. We wonder if these are different species or if we all have the same potential inside of us. To understand this, we have to look at the hidden mechanics of human kindness. We often think that altruism is just about being a nice person, but it is actually much deeper and more complex. It is a biological and psychological mystery that scientists are just beginning to unlock. The surface concept we usually talk about is empathy. We think that altruists are simply more sensitive to the feelings of others. We imagine they feel the pain of a stranger as if it were their own. This is partly true. When scientists put these extraordinary helpers into brain scanners, they see something fascinating. When an altruist watches a stranger experience pain, their brain reacts almost exactly as if they were feeling the pain themselves. It is a literal neural map of someone else's suffering. However, the surprise is that most of us have this ability. Most typical adults can empathize quite well if they try. The difference is not that altruists have a special superpower that you lack. The difference is in who they choose to include in their circle of care. For most of us, our empathy is like a flashlight. It shines very brightly on our family, our friends, and people who are like us. But when we look at a stranger or someone from a different background, the light fades. We find it harder to care. An altruist has a flashlight that shines on everyone. They don't see a stranger as an outsider. They see a human being whose life is just as valuable as their own. This brings us to a hidden assumption that many of us carry. We often assume that being a hero requires a massive ego or a desire for glory. We think people do good things because they want to feel special or superior. But the reality is the exact opposite. People who perform extraordinary acts of kindness are usually the first to tell you that they are nothing special. They insist they are just like everyone else. This is not just false modesty. It is a core feature of their psychology called humility. If you truly believe that you are not more important than anyone else, then it makes perfect sense to risk your safety for a stranger. If everyone is equal, then saving a stranger's life is just as logical as saving your own. This humility is the secret engine of altruism. It removes the wall between the self and the other. When that wall is gone, helping someone else feels as natural as scratching your own itch. There is a structural pattern here that we can see in our biology and our society. It is the idea of a continuum. Imagine a long line. On one far end, you have the extreme altruists who care for everyone. On the other far end, you have people with psychopathy. These are individuals who struggle to feel remorse or guilt. Their brains are wired differently. They don't have the same emotional brakes that prevent most of us from hurting others. While the rest of us feel a sharp pang of guilt if we lie or act selfishly, they might feel nothing at all. This is often a matter of genetics and brain development, not just a choice they make. In a healthy society, we create rules and punishments to keep these impulses in check. But for the altruist, rules aren't necessary because their internal motivation is so strong. They help because they genuinely want others to flourish. This brings us to an interesting discovery about well-being. We might think that people only help when they are perfectly happy, but it is more about feeling like you have enough. When we feel that our own needs are met and that we are flourishing, we naturally become more generous. It is easier to be the best version of yourself when you have had enough sleep and a good meal. On a larger scale, when a society provides for its people, those people become more altruistic towards strangers. Prosperity doesn't just make us richer, it can make us kinder. This allows us to reframe how we see our own potential for goodness. We don't have to wait for a moment of extreme danger to be altruistic. We can start by widening our circle of concern in small ways every day. We can challenge the idea that our time and resources belong only to those we know. We can practice seeing the humanity in a stranger on the bus or a person we disagree with online. This is not about being a saint. It is about recognizing the physical and emotional reality that we are all connected. Our brains are built for this connection. We have the hardware to care, and we can choose to turn it on. In our daily lives, this might mean being the person who stops to help a neighbor carry groceries or the one who listens patiently when someone is struggling. These small acts are the building blocks of a more compassionate world. They are the training ground for the big moments of bravery. When we choose to care, we aren't just helping others, we are improving our own sense of well-being. It creates a beautiful cycle where kindness leads to flourishing, and flourishing leads to even more kindness. It is a path that is open to all of us, regardless of our past or our personality traits. We often think of heroes as different from us, but they are actually showing us what we are all capable of if we let go of the idea that we are the center of the universe. We can learn to look at the world through the eyes of an altruist by practicing humility. We can remind ourselves that the person standing next to us has a life as rich and complex as our own. Their pain is real, and their joy is real. When we truly believe this, the choice to be kind becomes easy. We stop seeing life as a competition for resources and start seeing it as a shared journey. This shift in perspective can change everything from our personal relationships to our global politics. It is the most powerful tool we have for preventing aggression and building peace. We must remember that even the most altruistic people started as ordinary citizens. They didn't have special training. They just had a moment where they decided that someone else's life mattered as much as their own. We can make that same decision in our own lives, over and over again. We can be the stranger who stops to help when the car spins out on the highway. We can be the ones who provide the better roof or the solar panel for someone in need. The world is full of opportunities to expand our circle. We just have to be willing to look past our own reflection in the mirror. We are all living on the same continuum of care. We have the ability to move the needle toward the side of kindness. It starts with a simple recognition of our shared humanity. If we can accept that no one is fundamentally more important than anyone else, then we can begin to build a world where the stranger on the road is never truly alone. If you knew that your own well-being was deeply tied to the flourishing of a stranger, how would that change the way you walk through the world tomorrow?